but. All right, cool. So you're gonna grip the leash in 3 different ways. We'll start with that. You can do right-handed, you can do left-handed, you can do 2 hands. All right. I'd like for you to find the one that you like the most. The one you're probably going to use most frequently is left-handed grip. Okay. But the more proficient you are with all 3, the better you'll be at handling your dog. You know, and they're all basically they're all the same thing. It's just you're holding the leash slightly differently. We have 2 grips for the leash. We have a thumb lock. Okay, I'll explain this in more detail in a second, but that's what it looks like. Okay, you can't do 2-handed like that, obviously. Well, actually, you can. Like that. Okay. And then you have a finger lock. So this looks like. So it's locked over your finger. All right. That's right here. 2 hands like that. Okay. Now, what you can actually do leash pumps without the finger lock, but it's most effective with this finger lock technique. And it's a lot of like use of your fingers. I like it because it's not a whole lot of motion on the dog. It's easier on the dog for the most part. It's basically like gentle leash pulses. And I'll use my arms a little bit. I'll kind of like a combination of like snapping my fingers with my arm, you know. But it's the old school leash work, which we'll talk about a little bit, is like just do. What was his name? William Keeler. Did I tell you about him last time?
I'm not sure.
He was like, you know, look, he was a pioneer. He needs to be understood in the context of his day. But if you read his books, like, there's like sections on like, if the dog doesn't listen, give him a good 10-minute hiding.
Oh.
He like beats the dog with a switch and like he advocated like drowning them and shit. It was crazy. But he trained dogs for World War II. Stakes were high, obviously. You know, they had to be proficient, and it was a different era. So a lot of what he said, though, is still accurate and it provides the base of a lot of obedience today, minus the drowning. Yeah. Okay, so, but the old school leash work that he would use was basically you use your right hand a lot of sort of like pivoting and torque, and you come across your body like that. It doesn't have to be that hard. You could do it gentler than that, right? You know, like that. But it's a lot of motion. See, so what ends up happening is the dog ends up starting to brace for they're like that, you know, and they can see it. The timing isn't as good, so it's not as clear. You're not communicating as clearly because they don't understand what you want as much. You got a big monster of a dog. It's good to, because this is kind of a harder leash style, I think, because like I said, there's a lot of pivoting like that. If the dog's pulling ahead, you're gonna go. It's hard, but it's also the sharpest corrections you can give, and it's nice to have it in your back pocket in case you have to, whatever, emergency situation. 9.8 times out of 10, less is more. You find your dog's Goldilocks zone in terms of intensity. It's going to probably be like a general zone of intensity for just normal everyday stuff, and then high-level distractions. And at the end of the day, it's like if the dog's at an 8, you sort of have to be at a 9, not in terms of like intimidation, yelling at him, in terms of maybe the pressure of life. And it's, again, it's going to feel all the same to him though, because if he's jacked up like that, geez, he doesn't really get like. I know he bit someone, but like, trust me, he's a really sweet dog. You know?
We
he
know.
just needs a little bit more structure. He's going to do well. But so the idea is to override stimulus. You know, that's why positive reinforcement only in that context doesn't work, because in that moment he may want to bite a human being more than anything else. It's you know, that is the biggest reward you could imagine. You can't get me anything better in that moment. Okay, so that's why correction has to override it. So you calibrate it to your dog's individual personality type and also depending upon the situation. But for the most part, less is more. So that's one style of leash work we'll call it. There are 3 styles. I do sort of a hybrid of all 3. So that's Bill Keeler, drown the dog style. Okay, it's a little excessive. All right, but it was a thumb lock and a lot of bam like that. The other style is foundation style leash work. This guy Mike DeBruzzo is an excellent trainer. He came up with most of it, and it's a lot of leash pulses. Just this. And what he does is he kind of uses static pressure, and he just kind of pumps the leash. Now we'll get into the technique on how to do that in a second, but it's just like that. It's easier on the dog. I find the way he does it, I think it works a little bit better for shaping, and for kind of teaching and for lighter moments. What I tend to do is a combination of maybe 15% Keeler and 85% K91 foundation style, which is like this. I showed you like that. Okay. This guy would say there shouldn't be any arm movement. I don't agree with that. They'll just ignore it half the time. And then the last style is straight line pressure, negative reinforcement, light negative reinforcement. And the guy that I got this from, I'm sure it's been done for a long time, but it's this dude Michael Ellis from Learburg. I don't know if you know. It's like dog geek stuff. So, and all it is you're just kind of leaning on the leash, and he turns off the pressure when he's in the right place. But it's light. It's not like, okay? It's got the key with this. It's very similar to how you would lead a horse. I don't know if you remember.
Yeah.
So it's like light negative reinforcement pressure. He turns it off. Okay. Just like that. That's it. Okay. And the key with this, and with all these corrections, is it's straight line pressure. So whether you're going to do it fast and hard like Bill Keeler, or slow and soft like Michael Ellis, it's got to be straight up in the air for sit. Okay. For heel, if he's pulling ahead, straight back. As much as you can get a horizontal line, the ground, better. So it's vertical. And the only down would be basically like 45-degree angle.
Yeah.
Okay. But you're always indicating with the leash, this is where I need you to be. This is where you're supposed to be. It indicates direction, which is why we introduce these collars on leash, because otherwise it's like they don't really know where they're supposed to go. Okay, so let me show you how to hold the leash.
Does this all assume the dog has a collar on and not a chest harness, or does it work?
Yes.
Both
Yes.
ways?
So the harness, the reason harnesses are counterproductive is what they do is they distribute pressure evenly across the chest, and there's no give. So you end up pulling the dog. And what it does is it engages an oppositional reflex in the dog. So, and all dogs have an oppositional reflex. She is a particularly strong one. A lot of stubborn dogs do. And so if you're pushing them this way to keep their balance, they'll kind of go in the other direction. And it's often associated with obstinacy, but they all have it. It's a real reflex. This is why sled dogs pull. They use harnesses on sled dogs to teach them to pull. So that's the main reason he wasn't healing. It's because he had a harness on. And so the way it feels to the dog is like, it's kind of telling him, it's the way his body reacts. It's like he's supposed to be pulled. You know what I mean? So that's why the harnesses basically don't work. They're counterproductive. Ultimately, what I want to see him on is a Star Mark collar, which I think Nico has on now. Nico, you want to come up from your nap? Come here, baby. That's a good girl. Now, to me, I don't know, maybe I'm sick, but these look like Legos to me. But a lot of people are horrified by it. But if you take it, put it on your arm, and just squeeze it. Yeah, he walks right through it right now. Once he's at the point where he's got slightly better impulse control, he just knows exactly what to do all the time. You're just kind of reminding him. So he'll probably be good with this. The only tricky part is how long his hair is. Okay. So ultimately, I think trained dogs go on that because it has a little bit of give to it, as opposed to just pulling. But frankly, I don't look at any of these collars as bad things. It's just if the dog's on a collar for the rest of his life, but he's living a good life and doing what he needs to do, all right, then fine. I like to get my guys. I'm really kind of a soft, especially with my own dogs. I like to get them on as soft a collar as possible, but not if they can't handle it. If they can't function, then I don't care. Okay, so how to hold the leash. Start with a thumb lock with your right hand, okay? So you take this loop, just like that, put it over your thumb, and with your free hand, which is going to be your left hand, go about halfway down the leash, okay? And what I want you to do is bring the leash up and just let it rest. Just bring your palm like that. Just over like that. Okay. What you can do from there, so what we're going to do is we're going to call this a starting position. You just close it, you're locked. So now the dog can't get away from you. Whether it's in a thumb lock, whether it's in a finger lock, or whether it's in starting position. It's not technically impossible, but it's very unlikely. If you have this lock and a decent grip on it, he's not going to be able to get away. This can be a disaster very quickly, you know. So this is a basic safety thing with leash handling. So you always need to have that leash locked, whatever grip you use. So this is your starting position. And if you kind of wrap it around your thumb just like that, open your hands up, close it over so it's nice and neat. Good. Yeah. Unlock it. It's easy, right? Now, we'll go back to a starting position. Nice. And now this is really easy. What you do is you just let the leash kind of fall down. Basically, all it wants to do. You let it go over your index finger, and then you lock it with these three. See that?
Yeah.
Now, this is typically good for when dogs are ahead a bit. The thumb lock tends to be good for when you're lagging.
Yeah.
Okay.
But this one, so always wants to be on the phone.
Yeah, and I like this too because again, it's easier on the dog for the most part. It's not a lot of motion.
Yeah.
It's less motion, and I think that sort of leash pump is more effective with a finger lock. You can still pump the leash. I'm going to get into this in a second with a thumb lock. You know, but it's awkward for me. Like, you can do that. It's not that bad. But I prefer the finger lock. So those are your three grips, and they apply to whether you're using two-handed leash work. This is something I do with small dogs a lot. They're like down here, you know. But I do it with big dogs too. So you could go finger lock, starting position, thumb lock, two hands. Two-hand leash work. With your right, starting position, thumb lock, finger lock. With your left, which is going to be your primary go-to grip, starting position, thumb lock, finger lock. She said you were going to be a ninja.
Yeah, I know.
Look at this guy. How many fucking miles are you riding a day, by the way?
Yeah.
I feel like shit looking at you. I used to be sort of like that. Oh well. Okay, cool. So let's go over real quick, just pumping the leash. The way I do it, the way it's taught by the guy who made this is he likes that kind of static pressure. So say you're going to give a correction for sit, he likes to have that static pressure and then pump it. The way I do it is I'm kind of like this, okay, or just one. That so it's light motion with the arm. I'm kind of pulling up. A lot of times when I use two-handed leash work though, I'm just going. You know, so it's like really simple and easy. It's just with your fingers. I like this a lot because it's easy for people to learn. I think the old way of like torque, come across, people are horrified.
Yeah.
So like, you know, they're like, oh god, he wants me to like abuse my dog. So this is an easier sell and I think a lot more effective. You just kind of pump it like that. So you can try both ways if you want it. There you go. Yeah, and I think that's a little bit more awkward, right, with the static pressure. So if you kind of went like this.
Yeah, it's better.
Yeah. You see, it's pretty easy on the dog, you know. If you had to, by the way, you could give a Bill Keeler. But you know, these aren't very hard to do, by the way. I don't think it's just muscling it and you're throwing it back. You ever do any boxing or martial arts? Okay, so they always in boxing and martial arts, they're always saying if you throw a punch, you have to bring it back. You defense, but also if you're going to throw a second punch, now you're throwing half the punch. So, you know.
Yeah.
So with this, it's the same thing, but the more important part that relates to leash work is that if you leave it up here, you go like that. Now again, you're sort of engaging that oppositional reflex, and it's just you're creating a lot of tension on the dog. You know what I mean? And it's just not crisp. This feels very human.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like this, even if it's a little too hard, like that's very dog. It's fast. They see, I think, 16 frames per second with C4. So the quicker it is, even if you do it very gently, the better. So it's very much like a pop run. You need to do a few, you know, just quick static leash pulses. But you have to release it and then bring it back. very critical concept. Okay, so, and you could pump the leash like that too. Starting position. Okay, so we get those 3 down. So I just gotta teach you commands and you're done. Okay, so sit, heel, and down. I'm gonna cover those 3 basic commands on leash work, and then you'll be graduated from our leash training seminar, which Nico finds so fascinating, right, sweetie? Okay. All right, so we'll start with sit again, straight up in the air. It pulls their head up, their butt goes down, okay? And I'll just demonstrate for heel. It would be straight back if it's pulling ahead, and straight forward. You know, and the closer you can get to a perfectly horizontal line, the better it will be. And then down is 45 degrees. So now we'll just get into the technique. What needs to be practiced, main reason this needs to be practiced deliberately, I can already see, like, you'll get the biomechanics down quickly, is you'll trip over the word sequence. So you want to match, when you correct, you want to match no with a correction every time. So no has teeth, basically. Yeah. And the tone is important, kind of from the diaphragm, but you don't want to rattle the dogs. So like, you know, this can't sound malicious, but nope, business-like.
Yeah.
Gus Fring, Breaking Bad. Nope. That's bad. Good boy. Okay. Yeah. So it's not personal. You know, it's his business. So good boy. But what you've got to do is you got to nope. Then you repeat the command, which would be sit, and then you say good boy. Which he does. Good boy. We'll get into marking with if you're going to use food for certain things or balls and stuff like that later. That's a little bit more complex, but we'll keep it simple for now. And it's very simple. 1, 2, 3. No with a correction. Repeat the command. Sit. And sit, it's got to sound inviting. Something they want to do. And then once they do it, good boy. Very good. You're good with the praise. Because mommy loves her boy. You know? Good boy. It's got to be effusive and heartfelt. You know, you almost got to think of it as like, it's got to be a substitute for food, right? Yeah. You can't, or I'm very conservative about how much food I use in training, but you can't fucking give a dog a treat every time they do something well. First of all, it devalues the reward. Second of all, it's transactional. Third, it's impractical. You can't carry around, meat in your pocket all the time. Right. Which is what he's addicted to now. So anyway, you got to make the praise, like you got to mean it, and if it's not a little bit embarrassing, especially in the beginning, you're not doing it right, okay? Yeah. Especially when you're out working with him and stuff. That's got to be right. You got to forget there are people in the world, which is easy to do in New York, so pretty fine with it. Good boy! All right? So 1, 2, 3. So with stationary commands, you'd issue the command first. You would say sit, and if he does it, you praise. Every time he does something good, you say good boy. You say sit, he doesn't do it. No, sit. Good boy. He's non-compliant again. No sit, no sit. That's negative reinforcement, and you have to be very careful with it, right? Because you might have corrected him too hard. Read your dog. You might have blasted him. And the dog's like, what the fuck, man? And he might be rattled, so you have to look at him and be like, is he non-compliant right now because I did it too hard, caught it by surprise maybe, or maybe I didn't do it hard enough, or whatever. So just know your dog, understand him, understand that they will play you sometimes too. You know what I mean? Like Dewey's big trick is he knows I think he's funny. So he'll pretend like he's scratching something, or like, he'll do something, he'll roll around with his balls hanging out, I'll start laughing. He's very manipulative, and they all are to a certain extent. Yeah. Most of the time, you gotta sort of increase the volume a little bit of the correction, not your voice. Sit. That's a little hard, right? But you get my point. Yeah. All right. So practice it 2 or 3 times, and then we'll move on.
Nope. Sit. Do you sit right after the correction that quickly?
Yeah.
To give it a little time to let the correction sink in, and then ask again.
You can do that. Yeah, you can delay it by just a second. I mean, look at him, see how engaged he is.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Because he might be a little bit. So yeah, give him half the second to process.
Nope. Sit. Good boy, Alki.
Good. Good dog. Good dog. I can say good dog to you. Involuntarily. That's how fucked up I am. So, okay, so that was very good. The only thing I would say, sit. Good boy, like mommy voice,
Yeah,
you know?
okay.
Good boy, it's good. It's tough to do with your fake pretend dog practices in the apartment. It's a
Yeah.
little bit less embarrassing, and you'll be more likely to actually use the words,
Yeah, yeah.
which is probably the most important part. You can see right away you have to leash. All right?
One question for you is we've been using the phrase instead of no.
You give them little warnings.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's like we kind of like negatively connected that to a
Yeah.
correction, that phrase. And the only
I'm
reason
a
why
little
is
old
because
school.
like,
I mean, look, you're going to make this your own.
Yeah.
You know, at a certain point, a lot of trainers do issue warnings. Maybe I will at some point. I do with heel, but I'm worrying with my feet. We'll get into that once we work with them. But with stationary commands, I don't. And with behavioral stuff, don't. You know what I'm saying? So I would say start off, just do a black and white. He's very smart. So he might feel it a little bit, you know, but
no, what I mean to say is like the phrase was our no. And the only reason why is because the first dog trainer that we had said, well, people just say no in conversation all the time, but they don't say that often, so you don't really want them mixing it up. Like,
yeah, I
So
mean,
he's-
I know what he's saying. He's just used to no now, so we gotta kind of standardize the language because he's already kind of fluent in it. You know, he's conditioned in at this point. But that's not a big deal because like she doesn't give a shit what we're saying.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like they don't pay close attention to humans interacting verbally. I don't think. You know, it's a common word. So if we were out here, we were saying it loud. That's why I don't want them out here right now. You know, but I don't think that's such a big deal. But if you wanted to give warnings, I do that with because I like them too. Sometimes I'm like, oh, okay, like that. That's like not really by the book. I keep it a little bit more black and white, especially in the beginning. Sure. Okay. And then later on, you know, he's up to a lot. But behavioral stuff, I wouldn't give warnings. I would just let him know that's not cool and move on.
Yeah.
All right, once he's doing the right thing, tell him that too. Okay. So sit. One other thing from the front. So when you say this is a curb, you step off. There's a van here. You got to look around. You have to correct from the front sometimes. I think the best way to do that is to go like this. You can do one of two things. You can go to starting position, like that. Take your free hand, just kind of let the leash kind of fall out, and then you're facing the dog, and you're looking past the van. Up it's coming. He breaks a sit. You grab the leash, come in, just go like that. Say no sit. Or you can go like this. You could still face him. Or you could just kind of drop the leash. I like holding it in my right hand. Like I should go in a two-handed leash work, right? Just like that, starting position here. He gets up. No, sit. I do like a little niche move.
Yeah.
This isn't something that you'll actually do more often than not, but you got to kind of pivot back to him like that. Easiest way to do it, I think, is just to kind of still face him and then come in like that. All right. On that one particular thing, I would give corrections that are maybe a little bit sharper because it's a life or death kind of thing. So he's got to be good at it. You know, it's almost like a rattlesnake. You know, out west they'll like blow the dog up with the e-collar because they want them to have like a phobia of that sound. So this is not that extreme, but he's got to know like he's really got to be dialed in at those intersections. Because dogs do get run over in the city, so that one is kind of important. Oh, yeah. All right. Okay, so we graduated from sit. By the way, practice what we just went over with all three grips. I like using my right hand a lot, because and if you do use your right hand, by the way, with all these corrections, it's the most part. It's good to have that left hand underneath if you're going to give a full correction. If you're going to do that sort of leash pump thing, it's a little bit more awkward with something like sit. I do it a lot with heel, okay? But this one is a little bit more uncomfortable for people. But if you were going to do the Bill Keeler, you got to connect your two hands. It's like baseball. Okay, heel. So this is the big one early on. Here's what he's going to do if he's being non-compliant a little bit with heel. He's going to cheat ahead teeny tiny bit. And again, we'll define the position very clearly after. But here's, as soon as he breaches, right? Breaching it would be like as soon as any part of his foot gets in front of your foot. This is going to be a warning zone, but really we want his foot, the front of it, behind your heel at all times. That's ideal. This is the warning zone. As soon as he gets past this right here, correct, try to get the timing down quick. You'll have time because he's already in that the warning zone. And just do it quick and easy. Nope, heel. Okay. Nope, heel. Nope, heel. Okay? Yeah. Left-handed is usually a little bit better for that. Nope, heel. Pretty easy, right? If you build it into muscle memory, a little bit easier. Practice that actually a few times because I want to show you something.
And when you're doing that, are you stopped or are you still walking really slowly? Are you stopped when you correct him when he's doing?
No, so you're walking.
You're still walking.
So I'll lengthen the leash just to illustrate. So he's ahead of me. By the way, if he ever gets way out in front of you, thread the leash so that there's some leash so that you're not yanking. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. Or I'll leave, maybe I'll heel like that, okay? But if he gets in front of me and I'm just like this, say I'm walking, heel, flip away.
Okay.
Makes more sense once we're working with an actual dog. But yeah, this one's a little bit tricky because it's in motion now. The only mistake you're making is it was a little bit before you had a little bit too much leash. So you were correcting like that. It's kind of like that a little bit. I didn't get into this yet, but the amount of slack you want in the leash is basically like, it varies depending upon the situation. So if you're in a tiny walkway and there's a crazy dog right there, or you're in an elevator, minimal, but the dog still has to feel like he's off leash. Because the second you do this, you start toe barring him.
Right.
He's going to do the exact thing you don't want to do because that tension creates, did my thing in? No. It creates psychological tension as well as physical. So as you adjust, just always keep a little bit of slack there. But generally speaking, kind of low slack, but always make sure he feels off leash. If you have to provide slack, it's easy. You just kind of like go out like that. For me, I like to thread it inward to reduce slack. Just know where the part you're going to grab.
Yeah.
I like to go like this, like that. And that's something you can practice. I think I get good at this. That's something you can practice just watching TV. The thumb lock, it would be like that. Alright, just real quick. Across the body. Just locate the part of the leash you have to grab. You should be able to do it without even looking at the leash. Okay. You just go like that. Okay, so a couple of heels and then you graduate your heel.
Heel.
Nope.
Heel. Good boy.
Not bad. So heel is like he's a seeing eye dog. You issue it once and then you're in motion. So you're not going to keep saying heel. It's implied he's in command structure right now. So you just go nope, heel. Good boy. All right. Nope, heel.
Good boy.
Very good. Perfect. Yeah. And as you work with your dog in terms of calibrating the level of intensity of the correction, whatever, read them and you'll figure it out on your own. I like to send them out where they're just very, very gentle. And some dogs, they're drivier, they're tougher, whatever.
Yeah.
It's like they're hearing impaired almost. So you got to give every once in a while a little sharp one, but I don't think he's going to need all that. Okay. Last one is down. Now, by the way, the heel, if he's lagging behind, it's just straightforward. Pump the leash, killer style, you could do in between. Okay? See, but this one's very easy when I get that quick. Okay, so last one is down. What I like to do with down is you can do a couple of different things. You can just drop the leash completely. This is usually the easiest. I like to hold it on my right hand, right, and the hand signals just like that, down. And then I just, and what you want to do is, I'm going to do it fast right now so you can see it. Pull your leg up just a little bit. It's minimal. It's more about pulling up than stepping down. So it's like this. Okay, not that hard obviously, but if you see it, like that. And that's about the level of intensity I do it. And it's important with this one, you don't want to if you do the clunk, right? Say you do it a little too hard, here's what they're gonna start doing. Their paw's gonna go in, their fucking chin's gonna go on the ground, they're gonna look like shit. You know, they're gonna be like, this sucks, because it's a submissive position for them. It's hard for them to do it already.
Yeah.
So, but at the same time, they'll be stubborn about it. So you gotta be kind of, it's a little tricky, you know, when you have to correct for this in terms of like, you know, not making them feel like shit, but you gotta do it, dude, you know. But he aims to please, so it's less about correction with him. And by the way, that's all we're discussing right now. I don't want to give you the impression that it's just like correction, correction, correction. But we're doing leash handling, and that's what it's about. So the easiest way to go, I think, is just like that. Okay? You could also go like this. It's just your palm. That would be like more like negative reinforcement, light tension downward. And you could also go like this. Grab right here, knuckles facing downward, nope, down. That's Bill Keeler style.
Yeah.
It's a lie. Just make sure the angle isn't off to the side, because that's going to mess up his position. Sure. It's tough right now.
Yeah, right. It's on the back.
But if the straighter is, the other thing too is people tend to do this. They'll kind of get out of position. You stay parallel to your dog. He's going to be keying off that left inside foot. Just like that. Okay? Last one, down from the front. The hand signal's a little goofy, but it's like this. Okay? And the reason for that is if he's 100 yards away from you doing off leash, you want him to be able to see it. Okay? I'm still doing this with him a little bit. You may still be transitioning a little bit from going like that.
Yeah.
They don't
Yeah,
really
'cause
get
that's
this.
We've taught him, like, we were
Yeah.
doing a lot of, like, sit-down stays from across the dog park when he was young,
Yeah.
and so we would do it kind of like that.
You go like that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's how he
Okay.
originally learned
You know,
it.
you can keep that the same. You know, this is a little bit more
Either
minimal,
way.
but I've basically been doing the same thing. You know, but the idea is for him to be able to see it from a
Yeah,
distance.
I mean,
Yeah.
that probably looked exactly the same as